At She Can, we tell women's stories. We show how women got to where they are today. And those examples and being a role model serves others. I am so excited to talk to Natasha Asghar today. Natasha, welcome to She Can. You're the Welsh Conservative Party politician representing South Wales East in the Senedd since 2021. You're the first female ethnic minority member of the Senedd. Vogue named you a force for change. You're one of the BBC most inspiring and influential women. You're the Shadow Minister for Transport and Technology in Wales, and you're working towards a Welsh Oyster card. You are also an author, and you wrote two books, Me, Myself, and My Arranged Marriage, and A to Zen. Tell us a bit more about yourself and all these incredible things that you do and put out into the world.
Well, firstly, Stephanie, thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you today and for such a beautiful introduction. So yes, you pretty much summed me up. I was a TV presenter, a radio DJ, journalist once upon a time, and then circumstances, COVID, and my life did a 180, as they say. And now I'm a politician. I've always had an interest in it. It's something that I always wanted to do. And it may sound a little bit cliche and perhaps a bit cheesy to some, but I always felt that my purpose in life was to make a difference somehow. And I was very much proud and elected to be the first woman of colour elected into the Welsh Parliament in 2021. And I've been working tirelessly to try and make an impact, and more so than anything else, encourage people from diverse backgrounds, people from the LGBTQ communities, people from the ethnic minorities, people with disabilities, to actually enter politics. Because for me, it's pivotal that politics is representative of the world that we live in. And I always say to everyone as well, and this may sound like a cliche again, but I'm the first woman of colour. I don't want to be the last. And I'd like to see more representation, not just in Welsh politics, but in politics across the board.
Natasha, and I'm so thankful for you to tell your story today because, yes, role models matter and representation really matters because it's easier to be what you can see. So, your story really started that you studied politics in university, you then went into media and then became a politician. Tell us a little bit more about the moment. Your father was also in politics and he held a position in the Welsh Parliament. Tell us a bit more. When was that pivotal moment where you thought, this is actually my purpose and I am called to stand and represent and bring about change?
So, Stephanie, that's an incredible question, to be fair, and it's one that I do get asked quite a bit. So, I had a natural interest in politics. I always wanted to be in a job where I get to talk and get to help and get to make a difference. So, for me, one thing that my parents always taught me was it's so important to get work experience. Try and get as much as you can in any area of interest that you have. So, had work experience in schools, in various political institutions. So, I had work experience when I was 16 years old in the Welsh Assembly, which is now the Welsh Parliament. And I've also worked in the House of Commons, the House of Lords, the European Parliament, when we were still part of the EU, of course. So I've had quite a vast array of political experience. And I think over the years, it was shown by my standing for election. So this wasn't my first election that I won in 2021. I'd actually stood for two Welsh Assembly elections previously, two UK government elections, and also one European Parliament. And I'll be honest with you, Stephanie, I actually said to my family, I'm done. I can't keep doing this because I was working in media. And every time that I would stand for election, because I was front facing of camera, there are Ofcom rules and regulations where you can't be seen to have any political affiliations if you are fronting a show. If you have your own show, you cannot be politically affiliated. So every time I would leave, my bosses were great. But at the same time, when I lost an election, I would struggle because I'd have to go back to the job, and it was causing a lot of problems for me. So I actually told my parents, much to their sadness, that I don't want to do politics anymore. I am done. And my father was a regional member for South East Wales for 13 and a half years. He sadly passed away in 2020 from a sudden heart attack. And I'll be honest, it was probably the most pivotal moment of my life, which changed my direction as well. So when that happened, I didn't know what to do. I am an only child for my parents, and they very much lived through me, and they obviously wanted the best for me. And even though I had my own life and I was working in media at that time, I was working in PR as well. The situation that I found myself in was that I was being asked by a lot of people that, you would make a really good politician. My dad always used to say to me, he was like, listen, I I wasn't born in Britain. I wasn't raised here. I've lived here for 50 to 60 years, but people always consider me, in his words, a freshie, someone who's not from here, someone who doesn't have ties, even though he very much considered the UK his home. But he said, you were born here, you were raised here, you were educated here, you have every quality of a great politician. You just need to get it and do it. And once you do it, the sky is the limit for you. And you wait and see all the hard times you've had, all the failing sort of elections that you've faced over the years will be worth it when you have that victory. And true to form, just unfortunately without him being there, I fought the election in 2021 upon a lot of insistence from his colleagues at the time, who are now my colleagues, as well as family and friends. And I took the plunge. I wasn't very much convinced that I was going to win. I thought, oh, this is going to be another one where I'm going to lose it. But thankfully, I think my angels were looking fondly on me in that time, and I won the election, and here I am.
Natasha, what a great story. Tell us a bit more about your motivators. Now you've been in politics for a while. You obviously bring a diverse background to the table, which is really very important in this day and age. And we know that places and businesses and politics and society at large functions better if we have the diversity sitting at the table. Tell us more about your motivation.
So I have many motivations. I think the biggest motivation I have are the 413,000 people that I actually represent. I take my job very seriously, Stephanie. I always believe that whatever you do, you have to do to the best of your ability, because unfortunately, as politicians, we are criticized, condemned for any little thing and any big thing that we do. So for me, I'm very much a person, and I believe I'm a person of the people. Their problems are my problems. And I take it very, very personally if someone comes to me with an issue, whether that be their child is not getting admission into school, or whether they're not happy with the speed limit being 20 miles per hour across Wales at the moment. Or it could be the fact that they're not happy with the fact that the Welsh Labour government here is pumping loads of money into vanity projects. Whatever the case may be, their problems are mine. And I think for me, the biggest motivation and the biggest, I should say, the biggest fortune and the blessing I have in my life around me right now is the fact that I've got very supportive constituents of me. I have a great team, and I have an incredibly supportive family. I think without these three factors, I would really struggle to do the job that I do.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that, Natasha. What would you say are your top qualities? What are the qualities that you have that serve you doing this important job every day, representing those 413,000 people?
Wow, that's an incredible question. Okay, so I'd probably say the first one is that I have immense integrity. I stand by my word. I don't divert from my responsibilities and my obligations. I know I'm one person, but I do also consider myself a workaholic. So I think that helps, but also can perhaps some say is a hindrance. So please don't follow my suit in that. But I am a workaholic. I do like to work. And I find that gives me some purpose. And for when I have a purpose, I work incredibly hard. So I think integrity is important. I think a great work ethic is important. And I'd probably say there has to be a level of honesty. Unfortunately, politicians are deemed robots these days, that we follow party lines and that we don't have morals and we don't have principles. But for me, and something that I take very seriously, and my late father used to be, is that we're very much people's politicians. We stand up for the people. We're not here for any career gain, for any monetary benefit. We do it because we care. And that's something that he told me. And I always tell people whenever I get asked this question, what do you say to aspiring politicians? Don't do it for money and don't do it for fame, because you can get those in other areas. Do it if you're serious, and do it if you're devoted, and you can actually do it honestly, and make sure that you hold that high esteem and that position in high regard, because there are so many people out there, unfortunately, who are misusing their position in politics. And that's not something that you want to go down for in history.
I'm so thankful that you mentioned these really crucial points, Natasha, because there are 70 elections across the world in 2024, and we really need women voters, we need young voters, and I think that they have really been disappointed by what's going on in politics across the world. That is not just a UK problem, that is a problem all over the world. So I'm very excited to hear you speak in exactly that manner, because that's really fostering and bringing in a current that we're missing in politics so often. Natasha, so what top tips would you give to young girls who are interested, who feel that they have a purpose, who want to make a difference? And we need more talented and inspiring and ethical people in politics today. What top tips would you give them to steer in that direction?
Firstly, I would say never fear failure. You may fear rejection. I hate rejection. No one likes it in any area of their life, but I think it makes you stronger. I think having had those 6 elections prior to, actually, no, sorry, my apologies, having had those 5 elections prior to winning my sixth, I think that rejection certainly built me and made me the stronger person that I am. It's given me the clarity to know what I want and have that purpose to strive forward and make that difference and change. It's also given me a lot of experience. I think people often say, oh, well, I'm not getting paid to fight for an election. It's hard. It's difficult. I might have my fingers chewed off by dogs when I'm leafleting. It's all part of the process. I always believe it's so important for you to work from the bottom up. If you know every single level of that job that's required, and I often say this to my team, every job that I have in my office, from my caseworkers to my parliamentary assistants to my parliamentary officers to my senior advisors, I have done those jobs. So I know exactly what their job entails. And if they're unavailable, they're not here to do it, I can do it myself. It just gives you that experience. So don't ever see experience as a bad thing. Make sure that regardless of what happens, you will come across a lot of people who will guide you. Some people may misguide you, but use your own integrity, use your own thinking, and don't take on everything that everyone tells you. At the end of the day, those people who want to go into politics and different professions often have a gut instinct. Trust your gut sometimes, because a lot of people will tell you a lot of different things, but only you know what's right at the end of the day. So don't get too bogged down with making sure you have to tick everyone's boxes. And lastly, more than anything else, I would say, just remember, and this is for every area of life, you can't please everybody. As hard as that was a lesson for me to realize, I have to say that to all of your viewers as well. No matter what you think, and it's one of the most hardest burdens that I bear sometimes, because like I said, I take everyone's problems on for myself. So for me, I have to sometimes take a step and take a breather. My team even sometimes say to me, look, you can't please everybody. Do your best, but don't worry about the rest.
I really am so thankful for these tips because they're really crucial in getting places in general.
Mm.
Natasha, what are you most proud of to date? You've achieved a lot, you've overcome real challenges. What are you most proud of to date?
Gosh, there's so many, but I'd probably say my proudest achievement is just, regardless of the adverse situation I've gone through, I think for me, my father's death was the biggest, most difficult time of my life. And unfortunately, at the time, the way it happened, what happened, I wasn't able to grieve properly for him. And I'm one of those people that when I'm very stressed out or very upset about something, I throw myself into my work. Some people say it's a good thing, some people say it's a negative thing. I find it therapeutic. That's how it works for me. But under those circumstances, the fact that I was able to get through that difficult patch emotionally and personally, and then also excel professionally at the same time, and to be acknowledged for the things that I've done. So I know you kindly mentioned that I have a desire to have an Oyster card, which is absolutely 100% the dream. I believe people in Wales deserve the very, very best of everything, and transport is my portfolio. So I would love to not just have a travel card, but currently here in Wales, we have a 20-mile-per-hour speed limit, which I've very much been fronting the campaign for since day one. And it's something that the public here from not just Southeast Wales, but every single corner of Wales, people, businesses, groups, organizations have been so profoundly affected by this. And the media input that we've been getting and the media sort of, I should say, spotlight that's been on Wales has been beyond anything anyone's ever seen. And I think I'm very, very proud the fact that something that I've stood up for has been recognized. It's united people from all across Wales. And it's something that I think has brought a real affinity amongst people. And I'm really proud of that, to be honest with you. The fact that so many groups, organizations, people have come together over something that's so awful that we're all going through at the same time. But I think that uniting everyone together has certainly been one of my highlights for sure.
Yeah, that's amazing that you mentioned that because that's really your corner and you're fighting for the people in your part of England. Natasha, so what are your goals and plans for the future? What are your dreams? What is on the horizon for you for the next years?
So, Stephanie, I'm not going to lie to you. I am probably one of the most ambitious people you will ever come across. I was told that one of the biggest mistakes anyone can ever do is tell me no, because I'll probably end up doing it anyway. And never try and cage me up like a bird, because the more you try and cage me, I will rise like a phoenix even harder. So recently, well, not so recently, actually, probably last year, I submitted an application to go forward because I wanted to be considered for the Mayor of London position. I wasn't successful. But I do believe that sometimes you need to be able to aim for larger positions in life, go for those all important roles, so that at least you can then show to people. And this is what I was very privileged about and very blessed with. This is the residents of Southeast Wales. Everyone who heard that I put even an application in was calling, messaging me, stopping me in the street saying, do you know, a girl from Newport, which is where I was born and where I live and where I was raised, is doing well in life. And that is something that we are so, so proud of you for doing, Natasha, because you're inspiring not only girls, but boys out there that you can do it. Regardless of where you are, ambition is not something to be shunned. It's not something to be frowned upon. It's not something anyone has any right to ever make you feel embarrassed about. So when it comes to ambition, the sky is the limit for me.
And I'm so thankful, Natasha, again for you to aim so high and to have that vision. Because as you said, that doesn't just inspire girls and women, it does 100%. It also inspires men and boys, and 30% of our listeners are boys and men. And so I think this is uplifting for everyone, which is why we say at She Can, we serve others, not just girls and women. Of course, those as well. That's the main reason why we do it. But it's so important to see that together we are going to bring about change and not just a part of the population. Natasha, so who are your role models? Who are the people who inspired and mentored and motivated you and keep doing so?
Wow, very good question. So when I was growing up, I got asked this question a lot. So yes, politically, there are so many people who I could say to, you know, Barack Obama, Benazir Bhutto, all these amazing people. But honestly, Stephanie, for me, the biggest inspirations are not just people who you read about in books or see on the news. It's people who you meet and see day to day. And I'm really privileged. And this may sound very cliche, very cheesy to some, but yes, undoubtedly, and I don't make any secret of it, one of my biggest political inspirations was my dad, who was in politics for a very long time, and he was my biggest cheerleader, also my biggest critic. I think everyone, when you read the papers and you read the articles about us, we had a very close relationship. He was my best friend and everything, and my confidant. But equally, he knew very much so that I was very, very different. I'm not a very typical Asian girl who conforms to the norms. I'm very ambitious, and he supported my dreams. He supported everything I wanted to do in life. And I'm very privileged and lucky that he was off that forward thinking for a man of his age and off his background. But equally, I think I have to give credit to my grandfather. So my grandfather was actually the first Muslim mayor of Brent in London. And he was an engineer by profession. He was also a councillor. And he was a die-hard socialist. So in London, he's actually buried next to Karl Marx, just to show how much of a socialist he actually is. Like literally there's Karl Marx, and next to him is my grandfather. So we may have very different political views, him being a socialist and I being a conservative. But I think my grandfather was the one who always instilled those political values in me. He always said to me, there are three things you should always do when you meet people. One, never talk about their salary. Two, never talk about their politics. And three, most importantly, make sure that you listen to people. And the best politicians are those that listen, that actually do, and that actually care. And that's the making of a good politician.
Natasha, I'm so excited and so thankful for you telling your story, because that's exactly what is needed in this day and age and in this world, to have politicians with the ear on the ground, because most politicians we have now don't have the ear on the ground and therefore really miss the point so often, which is why we haven't got strong leadership anymore. Without strong leadership, there are vacuums that get built up, and then we have the issues and challenges and wars across the world that we have now. So I'm very excited that you came and told your story. Thank you so much for taking the time, and thank you for your leadership.
Thank you, Stephanie. It's been an honor.